Bethesda showed us cliffs and coastlines, ruins and ridges, 30 seconds of mystery, and then silence. But if you know where to look, those few seconds whisper far more about Elder Scrolls 6 than you might think. Welcome to the Gaming Hearth, my name is Tom, and around here we pull apart big worlds with a warm fire, a raised eyebrow, and a good brew in your hand. If you like your lore grounded in fact, but sprinkled with a little dash of myth, subscribe and join the Hearth. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than pre-ordering a collector's edition and will come with far fewer bugs. Tonight we're going to trace the quiet trail of clues Bethesda's already left for us, from teaser frames and developer slips to ancient Redguard legends. We'll start with the facts, move through the myths, and separate what truly is known from what fans have built in the shadows. So grab yourself a drink, grab a map of Tamriel, and let's head west, into the sands, the mountains, and maybe even the memories of Elder Scrolls 6. When Bethesda finally dropped that trailer in 2018, it was 30 seconds of cliffs, ruins and coastline, and not a single word was spoken. Yet somehow it's still the most dissected piece of footage in Elder Scrolls history. Every ridge, every shadow, every oddly specific bit of grass has been analysed to death. And while we've all been staring at mountains, that bloody Todd Howard has been quietly smiling about it ever since, confirming that yes, the trailer does contain hints about the setting. No names, no spoilers, just a smirk and a promise. Then came that 2020 New Year's message, transcribe the past and map the future. And there it was, a candle burning neatly over Hammerfell. Hardly subtle really, Bethesda practically left a trail of crumbs across Iliac Bay. Throw in that not so subtle Iliac Bay scratch found on a Starfield console, the talk of a classic Elder Scrolls feel, and Todd's insistence that Creation Engine 2 will power this thing for decades, and we fans knew then we're definitely going west. Officially, Bethesda said very little, but unofficially they've said quite a lot. A new engine, a known coastline, a quiet nudge towards Hammerfell and High Rock. The rest, this is where the lore starts whispering. So if we follow Bethesda's trail of breadcrumbs west, we land in two provinces bound by the Iliac Bay. Neighbours, rivals, and the perfect stage for a new Elder Scrolls epic. Hammerfell belongs to the Redguards, sailors, mercenaries, and survivors. When the Great War ended, the Empire signed away their southern lands to the Aldemir Dominion. The Redguards refused. They fought alone and won. Since then, they've proudly stood independent. It's the one province that told both the Empire and the Dominion to sod off, and somehow they live to boast about it. That defiance, that stubborn streak defines Hammerfell, a land of heat, scars and honour. The kind of place where every sword will carry a story and every dune will remember a battle. Now if we head north across the bay, you're gonna hit High Rock, a province of Bretons, politics and perilous family trees. This is a land where the nobility still duel with both rapiers and rumours. And at its heart is the Adamantine Tower, supposedly older than time and said to be where the gods judged Lorcan himself. It's the kind of ancient monument that makes even Daedric princes feel underdressed. Together Hammerfell and High Rock form a crossroads, where faith, freedom and ambition are constantly colliding. And if Elder Scrolls 6 really does take us here, it won't just revisit the old lands from Daggerfall, it's going to revisit the moment Tamriel learned that power and peace rarely share the same border. Now, beyond Hammerfell's western sea lies a memory, a land that sank beneath the waves long before the First Era began. Its name was Yokuda, and it was the cradle of the Redguards. The Yokudans were master swordsmen, the Ansai or Sword Saints, warriors so disciplined they could summon blades from their own souls. Legend says one group, the Hiradirge, took that art too far. They unleashed a forbidden strike, a Pankratos sword, so powerful that it shattered the land itself. Yokuda sank beneath the waves and its survivors fled east to Tamriel. Those exiles became the Redguards, proud, restless, carrying fragments of a lost world. Their gods still speak of cycles and rebirth, Satakal, the world serpent who devours himself to begin again, and the Hooding, the spirit who appears to make way when the world must change. It's a mythology of endings and new beginnings, which to me sounds suspiciously like Bethesda's favourite theme. So when we see cliffs breaking into ocean mist in that trailer, perhaps it's more than scenery, perhaps it's a story repeating itself. Because in Tamriel, the past never really sinks, it just waits to resurface. Alright, now this next part is going to drift into speculation. I'll try to not keep it to wild Reddit fever dreams, but grounded lore theory. The sort that will keep Elder Scrolls fans awake at night, arguing over the metaphysics of it all. In Elder Scrolls myth, the world is held together by great towers. Mystical anchors built by gods and mortals to keep reality from unravelling. The first of these was the Adamantine Tower, also known as the Rennie Tower. Built on the island of Balfiera in Iliac Bay, it's believed to be the oldest structure in all of Tamriel, the very first tower and crucially still active. Its stone, the Zero Stone, marks the site of the legendary convention, where the gods judged Lorcan, the trickster who created the mortal plane. That moment, that judgment, is said to have stabilised the world itself, and ever since the Adamantine Tower has stood as the first pin holding creation in place. Here's where the theory begins. Some speculate or believe that the Thalmor, the High Elves, are trying to unmake those anchors, tearing down the towers one by one. Why, you may ask? Because in their faith, Mundus, the mortal world, was a mistake. If they can destroy the towers, reality collapses and they return to godhood. Now, none of this is confirmed, but if Bethesda is really taking us to High Rock, home of the Adamantine Tower, and Hammerfell, where the Orichalc Tower of Yokuda once stood before it sank, that would be quite the coincidence. Maybe we're heading into another story about balance between mortal ambition and divine consequence, the same quiet struggle that has shaped every Elder Scrolls age. None of it is official, but the poetry of it and the symmetry is hard to ignore. A game set where the first tower still stands, its stones still humming, and just across the sea, the echo of a tower long drowned. It's the perfect stage set for a story about worlds ending and then beginning again. So, stepping down from cosmic towers for a moment, let's talk about what fans have actually uncovered. Because while Bethesda's as tight-lipped as ever, the community has been doing what it does best, connecting dots, overanalyzing pixels, and occasionally stumbling onto something real. The leading theory, and frankly the most sensible in my opinion, is a dual province setting. Hammerfell and High Rock together, split by Iliac Bay. It fits everything, the teaser's landscapes, the Hammerfell candle tease, and even a curious Starfield console Easter egg shaped like the bay. It'll give Bethesda a world of contrasts. Redguard deserts and Breton mountains, mysticism and politics, all within sailing distance. Of course there's also the infamous Pinterest leak, a supposed mood board from a Bethesda artist featuring North African deserts, sandstone cities, and unironically a costume from the Mummy. Whether that was genuine or someone's particularly committed weekend, it really matched Hammerfell's aesthetic a little too well. And then there's talk of naval travel. Given Hammerfell's vast coastline and all the islands within the bay, and those long lost Yokudan ruins offshore, it's not far-fetched enough to imagine sailing playing a part here. Maybe a bit of exploration, a tad of trade thrown in, or maybe it's just a glorified fast travel system that lets you shout ahoy without any irony. But beneath the wish lists and the leaks, there's one thread that keeps resurfacing: Hammerfell's independence, the Empire's decline, and the Dominion's simmering ambition. It all points towards the next great conflict. If Skyrim was about rebirth, Elder Scrolls 6 could be about resistance. A land standing alone once more, facing the gods and empires that forgot it could. So whether it's a real concept art, mood board, or a Reddit prophecy, all the evidence for me is whispering the same thing. Elder Scrolls 6 isn't just taking us somewhere new, it's taking us back to the roots of the series where myth, politics, and consequence meet. When you pull all the clues together, the setting, the history, the rumours, Elder Scrolls 6 begins to look less like a mystery and more like a reflection. A story about legacy, about what survives when empires crumble, gods fall silent and the world tries to start again. We have Hammerfell's defiance on one side, a province that stood alone against the Dominion, refusing to yield or bow. High Rock, meanwhile, endures through diplomacy, lineage and quiet ambition. Two ways of surviving: resistance and adaptation, sharing a coastline but never quite the same vision. It's the perfect Elder Scrolls contrast really. Sword and scroll, honour and intrigue. The kind of world where you can slay a monster before breakfast, before attending a very awkward political meeting after lunch. And if Bethesda leans into deeper lore, the towers, the echoes of Yokuda, then maybe this isn't just a tale about nations, but also about cycles. Worlds ending, worlds beginning, and the people caught between them. Because every Elder Scrolls game, beneath the dragons and Daedra, has really been about one question: what part of the past do we choose to keep? And perhaps Elder Scrolls 6 will finally ask, what happens when the stories that built the world are forgotten? So whether Bethesda takes us to the red sands of Hammerfell, or the misty peaks of High Rock, or even the drowned shores of Yokuda, one thing is certain: the next Elder Scrolls game isn't just another world to explore, it will be a world trying to remember itself. If you've enjoyed this quiet dive into the myths and mysteries already whispering through Elder Scrolls 6, leave a like, share your theories with me below, and of course feel free to subscribe to the Gaming Hearth. Around here we pull apart big worlds with a warm fire, a raised eyebrow and the occasional misplaced sword of prophecy. Until next time guys, keep your stories close and your mug of mead closer. I'll see you by the fire. Bye bye now.